welcome back to Sports Check on this Monday morning. It is the 22nd day of November 2021. We've had a conversation about water sport, canoeing to be specific, and now we're moving on to the sweet science. That's what they call boxing, a sport that they say nobody plays. But also, we are keeping up with what's in the news, and Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Professor Margaret Kobia, is going to update the country on the drought situation and the food relief plan. This is going to take place at the Internal Container Depot in Embakasi. The Kenya e-commerce strategy and e-trade readiness multi-stakeholder consultations are taking place in Nairobi. Plus also, we've got the ongoing ministerial inspection of projects, water and sanitation. A report on that is going to be given to us. Plus also conversations right now about boxing and moving on to football later, plus all the developing stories in the country. Well, let me just put a background to this. Over the weekend, actually started on Wednesday, 4 days of boxing at amateur level. 26 teams participating in the Jamal Cup, what ideally would have been the Kenya Open Boxing Championship, but it's been a championship over 4 days. The finals were on Saturday at Nairobi's Charter Hall. The objective of this is to select a national team that's going to represent the country at the Women's World Championship. That was delayed, was supposed to have been going on this month, but has been moved to March in Istanbul, Turkey. We've got the African Championships and also the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, England next year. And also, interesting enough, it comes in the background of the World Championships for the men that were in Belgrade. Let's now get into a conversation with the coach of the Heat squad. He's observed that, and he has got still to work with boxers. It doesn't matter that the championships are done. Musa Benjamin. Musa, thank you very much for your time this morning. Musa, first, let's start with the World Championships in Belgrade. That was the same city where Steve Mushoki won Kenya's only amateur gold in boxing. What was the experience there?
I think it was a very good and interesting outing for our boxers. Very good exposure, especially for those who are new in the team, those who had only had 2 outings representing our country. So in a nutshell, I would say it was an invaluable experience. What we saw, from AIBA, the global boxing body, was the introduction of new weights. We have something like minimum weight, we have the cruiserweight, what light middleweight, and the light middle. Yes. What's that change in the weight divisions? What does it mean for amateur boxers in the country? It's very good. Apart from giving other more boxers chances to represent our nation, it also bridges that weight difference that was there before. The difference was so high, and it could have affected the health of our boxers as well, and all the other boxers notwithstanding. So I think it's a good thing. Now we have 13 weights categories. We're actually going back to what we used to have in the earlier days, because we used to have 12 weight categories, except the now cruiserweight. All the rest have just come back. So it's a good thing. For those who got exposure, think of something like the minimum weight, up to 48 kgs. What learning lessons did you see from that division, which has got, it's very fast. It's not powerful like you'd see in the middleweight upwards, but they're quite fast. The speed is quite high, of course, due to the weight, no doubt about that. But you don't just need to have that speed. You also need to have good movement and precision while punching. So that with that, I think we have boys who are going to be able to clinch, get medals in the coming events in that minimum weight. I think we're okay in that weight. Remember, that's where even Steve Mushoki won a gold medal in the 1978 World Championships. Well, and also, the good thing is Steve Mushoki got his certificate because the previous one was damaged. What were the stories you had about Mushoki when you were in Belgrade? Oh, it was really, really nice to, while walking on the streets, and guys just recognize you because of the country, and they go Mushoki, Mushoki. They were actually chanting the name of Mushoki when we were there. In the streets, in the shopping malls, it was really a good feeling on behalf of Mushoki, of course, and on behalf of BFK, I think he was a good ambassador. And he set standards so high that we need to emulate. We need to do another Mushoki. Yes.
Oh, yeah, and talking about amateur boxing, global goals that we've had after that, 1988, the Olympic gold medal by the late Robert Wangila Napunyi, and also Omar Kasongo at the Commonwealth Games. Plus also, and yeah, Frank, I think you can get us this picture, this video that we saw from Belgrade, where we saw a foreign coach after Kenyan boxers were eliminated. They got in. The thing about sport is we are competitors, but after that, skills sharing is there. We can get that video and we can actually see a Kenyan boxer, getting a little bit of training from some of the European coaches. What were the things that they noted about our boxers and told you to change?
Well, the most important thing that they told us is to make sure that we take part in many events, because they don't see us in those competitions. So, because they noticed that we have very good boxers, technically and tactically, so the difference was pretty small. The margin of, you'd say, the losses were not that bad compared to the standards that was expected of us guys who have not been participating in this kind of events. So we trained with most of these teams. They were actually coming to our training camp to train with us, even for those who are still going on in the competition for the quarterfinals and semi-finals later on. And I think it's because they realized or recognized that we have that talent. So there are a few things about movement and some rules that have changed, but have not changed in the rule and regulations book. So there are things that have changed or keep changing every time they have these tournaments. So they were clear. It was very clear that Africa will remain behind if we don't compete in this or take part in these competitions regularly.
Tell us about the rules and regulations in boxing that have changed and have impacted on the performance of the national team.
I'll give you an example of scoring criteria. One of the scoring criteria is a correct punch with force behind. Now what they're doing is they're not following that. Because of the speed that is there now, you find that even tapping is still a score. Otherwise, before it was the punch had to have power behind for it to be a score. So you see, those are the changes that are there. Some of the changes that are there, but have not been changed in the rule book. Even at the technical meeting, they still tell you that a scoring blow is a blow that will have force behind. But at the real thing, even tapping is scoring. So those are some of those changes, little changes that affect our scoring. Because you go for power like you've been told, but then at the end you realize that you can even tap and still end up the winner. Yes.
Now the other thing is the 10 best system is there, but we use there's a 5-judge scoring.
Yeah.
How are we adopting to that? Because I know for a long time locally there's the random computerized where you pick a random 3 of the 5.
Yeah.
Tell us about that part of the game.
We are actually yet to get, locally, to get the AIBA scoring system, but BFK has already ordered for one, so we are waiting for it from Switzerland, and we'll be getting it very soon. And we intend to, immediately we get it, we'll be having a technical officials, that is the referee and judges training course, so as to adapt to the new scoring system and start applying it locally.
Now, Coach, let's just take a look at the screen and tell us about what was going on here, where the boxer was being told, look at the coach, and he's actually giving him some instructions.
Yeah.
And that's your assistant coach.
Yes.
Let's take a look at what they were doing. What was the instruction being given here about their placing and some of the little things they should change in their movement?
He was actually talking about moving like a panther. So that's what he was telling Mr. Karanja, or David Karanja.
Yes.
They should be moving like a panther while attacking. So to avoid, he was, if you noticed, during his fights, he was mostly bouncing so much. So it took him time to be able to counterattack fast. So he was telling him to move like a panther or slither like a snake while going in. Yes.
And also, he's telling him, look, make your things, your shoulders relaxed.
Yeah, you know, he was not supposed to be like shrugging. He's supposed to just drop your shoulders and relax so that you can release those punches very fast without being tight or stiff. Yes.
So this is something also that you noticed in the build-up to the Olympics with Elia Joey, this the super heavyweight, about posture and movement. How, for example, the introduction of strength and conditioning, and also trying to get getting the physios involved, has it helped improve these boxers?
Wonderful. Those guys have really done a good job. I will always thank Mr. Kimani, the strength and conditioning coach from the Olympic Committee, and our physio. They really did a good job on Ajoy, and the way Ajoy performed or boxed against the world champion La Cruz was very, very good. That is for us who are looking at so many different aspects of the game, not just the end result. So I think they've done a really, really good job on Ajoy, and as much as they say he's old, which is true, but we think he can be able to win as a medal in the future events that he'll be taking part in. That is if he wins a slot in the national team.
Of which we are coming to, and the Jamal Cup Boxing Championship, that's our focus. 4 days of boxing here in Nairobi, and you were there observing all these boxers, 130 odd fights over 4 days. What were the things that you noticed with the boxers? Those who are in the national team setup, they've got an advantage over the rest. What about the others?
Well, definitely there's a lot of rust. Most of them are rusty, but the techniques, the technical ability is there for most of these boxers. When you look at young boxers like Mwinyi Kombo from Mombasa, you could see that it's only rust. So I think our president, thought it wisely when he brought up this Jamal Cup, so that we can now resume boxing, because we've been out of boxing for about 2 years now. And most of these boxers now are at a disadvantage point compared to the boxers who are who've been in the national team. But I think at the end of the day, by mid next year, we'll be having a very good team to represent us.
Now, for boxers who've moved up weights, I will pick one, Humphrey Ochieng.
Yes.
Nicknamed Jakababa. Yeah. What has been the transition for boxers who've moved up a weight? And I think I also saw that Nico Koth also moved up a division.
Yes.
What are the differences that you see?
But we'll remember that before the Olympic weights,
yes,
Nico Koth was still a lightweight.
He was, but he had to come down to 58.
To 57.
57.
Yes, for the Olympic weights. Because 60, the lightweight in the Olympic weight categories was so high for him. It has been a bit of a challenge to some of them. I think boxers like Cosby Uma are feeling it, because he was a natural middleweight and now he had to move to light heavyweight. He still has not adapted to the weight. I saw that in the just concluded Jamal Championships. And others have enjoyed it, like Hezron Maganga in the cruiserweight. He's now comfortable there. Light heavyweight was a bit down for him, and he kept having problems reducing weight, making him very weak. I think now he's stronger at the cruiserweight. So it has been, it's mixed.
And let's move on to the women's side. It looks like for some, there was a case of a referee stop contest in the case of Christine Ongare.
Yes.
What needs to be done to fill this gap? Because it looks like Christine's got no competition for her. Anyone who's in the national team basically is way above everybody else. What needs to be done here?
I'm glad you also observed the same, because we've had that problem with a lot of stakeholders. And we say that there had not been proper structures to enable continuity. So the gap between those at the top right now, and those who are supposed to be filling in is so huge. So what we are doing as a federation now is to create those structures so that we can have our schoolboys and girls, our juniors, and then our youths who will definitely step up into the elite category. Once you have those structures set up properly, then you can have continuity, proper continuity. Once these ones are at the top, then you can give exposure to the number 2s and so on and so forth. But you see that the current or the immediate championships that we have are so crucial. We cannot use them as exposure for these number 2s who are still really way behind. So we need still to use the same boxers who are there at the top as we set up these structures. So it will take time. It cannot be an overnight thing. It takes time. So, and after, like, say, 3 or 4 years, we'll have that quality now that we want, and very good number 2s and number 3s.
The need to feel that is important, and for those who are number 2, for example, in some of the men's competitions, they've got another opportunity at the Kisumu event of the Jamal Cup. Tell us about this one.
Well, like I always say, selection of the national team is a process. So this process began with the just concluded Jamal edition 1 of the Jamal Cup. We are going to Kisumu on 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th for edition 2. Wow,
Jamhuri Day weekend, Kisumu. There's a lot of boxing coming your way.
Yes, and it will be fireworks, I'm sure. We intend to have, it won't be, let's say, 2 boxers per team. It will be now a boxer per weight, per team, so that now we can have only quality. Yes, so the sifting program started with this one. And then later on, we'll have novices championships sometime in either late January or early February, and then the intermediate, so that to give a chance to the new boxers who will have passed the intermediate level now to come for Kenya Open, where now we can have Kenya Open for the new entrants and the rest of the guys who've been participating in the Jamal Cup competitions. That, at the end of the day, will give us now a clear picture of the boxers who are ready to represent us in the Commonwealth Games.
So let me just put this. You mentioned that you're going to allow, for example, if it is team police prisons, the Kenya Defence Forces, Kentrak, Ithurai 44, Kakamega County, Kisumu County.
Yeah.
Each of these, you've mentioned clearly, they will be allowed 1 boxer per division. Per weight division. What's this?
And only those who are above intermediate level.
Okay. From how then will you assess, say, if police have got 2 heavyweights?
Yes.
Who will you, what's the kind of assessment that you would give the moment the proposed entrants are given to you?
It is very easy because we have records of all these boxers. We know their capabilities, and you know, in boxing it's a bit easy. It's not about selecting a good number 8 like in soccer or good number 10. The ring is there. All the good boxers step into the ring, and then they fight it out. We get the best and the runners-up. It's as simple as that. And then we'll also be looking at consistency. It might be your lucky day and you get a lucky punch or something like that and win. But how consistent have you been? Are you in a position, you might win, but are you able to represent us in such a competition like the Commonwealth Games and get us a medal? So those are the few issues that we'll be looking at as we select that team. But first of all, first and foremost, everybody has to step onto the ring and fight it out for a slot.
The other one is some of the new training methods that you've introduced to the team. For those who are there boxing, I mean, there must be a sparring partner.
Yes.
What are some of the things you've seen when you've brought in, like, for example, when you've got attire and you tell them, according to your stance, put your foot in here and put it up, and there is U-Spa inside here. It's basically a no way out.
Yeah, we actually call it nowhere to run, because at some point in boxing, after all that movement and stuff, you might get your opponent at the corner, or his back against the ropes, or our back against the ropes. What do you need to do? At that time, you have to put your punches together and punch in bunches. So the only way to learn this is to have that kind of training where you have nowhere to run. So you have to defend yourself at the same position, and at the same time, you punch. So head movement and scoring happening at the same time without movement now. Just head movement, so you must be very keen. Your observation must be there, up there, and precision. So those are the key things that we learn when we are training like that.
Now, there's also the African Championships. First of all, what's the outlook, the overall assessment of Africa? And you mentioned African boxing is behind, but if you were to mention the competition in the various divisions at the upcoming African Championships, where are Kenya's prospects? Where do you see, challenges coming in from other African nations?
Well, the first thing we spoke about when we had a meeting with the AIBA president is that when holding these African Continental Championships, we need referee and judges from outside Africa, because we've always had problems with our brothers from the north when you're holding these tournaments, and especially in their countries there. So we'll be having referee and judges from outside Africa. That's a plus for us, because it gives us all of us a level playing field. And I think our main challenge may come from the same guys, North Africa, Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, but we'll be good to go. I'm sure we are going to win medals in the African Continental Championships.
Actually, you had the Zone 3 Championships earlier in the year. What do you see from countries like, I think Mozambique were invited, DR Congo, Uganda? We saw Rayton Okwiri eliminated at the African qualifiers by a Ugandan boxer. So what's the zone like at the moment?
The zone is tough. It's very good. In fact, we're having a zonal championship just before Commonwealth Games, which will also be a very good outing for us in preparation for Commonwealth Games. And Congo are coming up very well. Mozambique have very good women boxers, very, very good. They're actually highly ranked in the world. We saw one fight against our boxer Kinyi in the Olympics. But besides, there's also Morocco and Cameroon.
Yes.
They are doing very well as well, and they're getting very good exposures. So their standards are coming up. So it's going to be tough, even at the Zone 3 level. It's not going to be a walk in the park, but we're up for it.
The Women's World Championships in Turkey, they were supposed to have been held this month, but were delayed. With the weight divisions that are the new weight divisions by AIBA, what's the size of the Kenyan squad that you'd like to have, or are you going to have fewer numbers?
Well, we have so many ladies who are able to represent us. The problem is that most of them have not been exposed so much, yes. That is our major problem, and I think the postponement is a blessing in disguise, because as a federation, we are going to start arranging for some regional events where we can expose our girls against, say, Uganda, Tanzania, Zambia, and the likes, for them to get that necessary. It's very important. And most of them are rusty, except for those who are in the national team. And you see, now we have to involve also men boxers in their training, so that because people like Elizabeth and Diego didn't even have an opponent at the Jamal Cup Championship. So you see, it will be difficult for her to get proper sparring against this lower weights. So we'll have to involve some of our male boxers in their training to give them that The
age.
The age.
Yes, you can see Christy now.
Okay, so how do you do this? You have somebody in the 60, a woman in the 67. What weight of a male boxer would you pick?
Same weight.
Same weight.
67, yes.
So that means...
At that time, we don't say this is a female boxer or a male boxer. All these are boxers, same weight, they spar.
The other one that...
They have to be toughened.
They have to be...
Toughened.
No mercy in this sport, so
No
that, because
mercy.
when you get inside that ring, only he can stop that contest if he does, you know, throw in the towel, or if he, as a referee, stops the contest, or you've got to win. Something else that everyone's talking, we've seen one competition, the Jamal Cup. What's the outlook? You also serve in the Boxing Federation of Kenya Executive Committee.
Yes.
What is the communication that you've received for this contact sport from the State Department for Sport about resumption of competitions?
Well, the most important thing is
the National League, as it was known.
We intend to have it next year, but we still have to follow all the protocols laid down by the Ministry of Health to combat COVID. And I think it will be very, very important to get more assistance from them, more advisories if necessary, so that these boxers can be active. 2 years is a long, long time. It has really affected us compared to the other top nations who kept training, kept having those bubble camps, which are very expensive for us to be able to have here. And I think once we have that league, consistency will come back and we'll be at the levels that are expected of us.
One of the things that we've seen with Mark Krumleb, the AIBA president, and he visited Kenya, what are the opportunities that are there for the boxing ecosystem under the new AIBA as they are reforming? We have got referees and judges, we've got coaching, and also in terms of equipment and infrastructure.
I think there's a lot of light at the end of the tunnel.
Is it an oncoming train?
Yeah, this one is, no, it's not an oncoming train, because that will cause damage. Equipment, AIBA now is, if you ask, you get equipment. They have introduced prize money for even the continental championships, and they intend to do that even at the regional championships. That is a plus, a huge plus for them. And I think you saw what happened during the Serbia World Championships. The numbers.
$200,000 per weight. Per weight division. 100,000 for the
gold and 50
for the silver. And the bronze medal is 25.
Two of them. So it was total 200 per division. And you could see the numbers. We had about 600 of the boxers showing up for that. So that is a very, very big plus for AIBA. And they said they're going to introduce it in the continental championships and other regional championships. So you see, motivation, obviously, these guys are getting motivated. And more boxers will be coming up. Competition will be high. And ultimately, the standards go up. When competition is high, the standards will definitely go up. So I think AIBA is on the right track. With the changes, they have introduced training courses where the referee and judges and the coaches won't be paying. We used to pay like $300 for certification. Now they waived that. So there will be no payments for those courses. All you need is to attend. That is a plus, another plus. During these continental championships, there will always be some training. So during, say, the Africa Continental Championships, we'll be able to take our referee and judges and some coaches for those trainings, so that we get everybody to the level that is expected, and that will help in our mantra of Ndoni Mashinani. When all these coaches are up to the level that is required, then it becomes easier for the federation, because we are sure that boxers coming up from the county levels, clubs at the counties, have the same quality or have the same culture that is going on at the top there. it becomes very difficult to handle boxers at the national team level who got it wrong at the basic level, at the foundations rather. When they didn't get the basics right, it becomes very difficult. Instead of polishing, you start teaching them again the basics.
Well,
so that takes time.
Yeah, the second coach of the national team I've had say that. The last one I've had say that was Bernard Lama. He was in charge of the Harambee Stars, and it ended up ugly. So, Musa, as we close, tell us about Kisumu, the Jamal Cup that's going to be taking place on the Jamhuri Day weekend. The venue and, you know, basically the competition times.
Jamal Cup will be on 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th of December. And I wish you guys could come, KBC, and cover it.
Okay.
Because I can promise you it will be fireworks that Kenyans actually need to watch.
Okay.
There's Kenyans who won't be in Kisumu.
All right, that's a curveball. What we'll do anyway, President Anthony Ombok can write to KBC and see what proposal and nepotism could be there. So
I'm telling him that immediately I leave this place. So we'll be having it, it will be a 4-day tournament like the one that was here. And it will only be strictly for boxers above intermediate and maybe others that the federation think need to be given a second chance. Maybe they lost because of injuries or something like that.
Yes.
So after that, we'll now get a clear picture of our number 1, 2, and 3 so far before we wait for the next year's events. We'll also be looking at our women, though there's not so much competition, but we'll also give them a chance. All those who are not able to make it to this one, to come for the Kisumu event, because the World Championship is not a walk in the park. We need to have serious boxers who are able to represent our country ably.
The venue specifically, which hall?
Ofafa Maringo Hall in Kisumu.
In Kisumu.
Yes.
Ofafa Maringo Hall, over that week running up to Jamhuri Day. That's where we're going to have the Kisumu leg of the Jamal Cup. Coach Musa Benjamin, thank you very much for giving us your time this morning after, you know, working with the boxers that early. The work continues as Kenya gears up for the Commonwealth Games, the African Championships, and also the Zone 3 Championships and the Women's World Championships in boxing. We take a short break, and when we get back, let's see what's been happening, get some views as to what's been going round in the world of football with John Agriotieno.